Give me a sec. Hello, 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 everyone. We are live, and give me a sec. I'm going to go live on Instagram as well. Awesome, awesome. So, good morning. Today, I am excited to introduce to you Lena. And Lena is a powerhouse. She's an entrepreneur, business advisor, asset manager, investor, wife, mom, the full works. And she has recently taken on the role of president of the Canadian Real Estate Women's Association. So Lena, that was just the highlights. So I invite you to do a proper introduction of yourself and tell us more about your story.
Good morning, Cardine. Thank you so much for having me. I think you did a great job introducing me. I mean, in a nutshell, that is who I am. I am the daughter of, immigrants who came to Canada back in the mid 80s. We had a very humble upbringing. My parents obviously worked very, very hard to give us anything and everything that they could within our means. And in my very early 20s, I met a gentleman who is now my husband, and he introduced me to the world of entrepreneurship. And for 20 years, he and I have been running multiple businesses now together, full-time together for 15 years. And we started off as real estate investors. We started off buying distressed multifamily properties in Ontario. We used what is now called the BRRRR method. So we would stabilize those properties, put in good tenants, put in proper management systems, refinance them, move on to the next. And I mean, over the course of 20 years, our real estate portfolio has expanded not just within Ontario, but into the United States as well. We've opened up a construction company. I have Stilettos and Hammers, which is a women's real estate investment network and an entrepreneurial network for women who are looking to connect, find their tribe of wild and crazy women who have the same out-of-the-box thinking as they do and just are there to support one another and create absolute magic. And we recently opened up a co-working space in Richmond Hill called Flex Space. So now we're getting into all kinds of fun and exciting things. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm sure there's many more businesses in the horizon over the course of the next 20 years, but that's been my first 20.
Awesome. And today, Lena has volunteered to share her success story, share her journey with us, because we know that success leaves clues, right? And your motto for Stilettos and Hammers says, it might be hard, but we don't have to do it alone, right? No. And I know you're always open to sharing your wealth of knowledge, your experience, and I'm always eager to learn. We met at a networking event, and I loved your group. The name of it, Stilettos and Hammers, because I too love real estate, right? I'm also an investor. And today I'm going to ask you to share a number of things that has lessons you've learned over your journey, traits that you think are important for success, and how you've conquered a few of the challenges over the 2 decades. And I think one I missed, right? I want to know how you get along working with your spouse.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny. Everybody asks me that. And honestly, I don't think that it's for everybody. It works for us because of our dynamic. My husband is a very level-headed, logical engineer. He's very data-driven, and I am very much the let's experience life and let's just, take this and go with the flow, and firecrackers are being lit all over the place, and together he's able to rail me in so that I don't bankrupt us, and I'm able to kind of pull him away from the spreadsheets and get him into action so that we're not stuck and frozen in one place. But at the same time, because of that, when either one of us has some sort of an idea or there's some sort of a vision, we both lack very specific skills on our own to get our visions from beginning to end. And thank goodness we both kind of complement that. So what I lack, he has, right? Mm-hmm. I don't read contracts. I don't do spreadsheets. Like, it makes me crazy. That kind of very attention to detail. It's not my strength. It's not my forte. And for him, it's like, he doesn't want to have to be out and constantly talking to people and constantly, putting himself out there when he could be, dealing with the administrative logs and the backlogs and the blockages. So we work really well together from that perspective. But for me at least, my personality is one where when he's given me a tough go, right? Like I have no problems coming home and complaining about my boss, who's such a jerk, and he's so this and he's so that and da 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 da. And I mean, he knows it's him, right? That's what you would do if you had an outside job. You come home and you talk to your spouse about the frustrations that you've experienced. So I do it anyway.
Why not? Right?
It works for us. It took time to get into that groove. In the beginning, it was very hard. It was very hard.
And you have to get through hard things in business, right? In business and in life, we have to get through hard things. And I guess along the way, you would have learned some lessons that you could probably share with our viewers, lessons that you think have helped you and will continue to help you as you progress your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the first things we learned very quickly, so in the real estate investment world, I think the majority of investors, when they start out, the first thing they want to do is they want to gain as much knowledge as they can. And a lot of the time, the knowledge that you're getting comes from, people who have grown very large portfolios in a very quick period of time. And, it's all other people's money, leverage this and that, and grow, and get, 200 doors as quickly as you can. And you're going to quit your job and you're going to live the life. We learned very quickly that slow and steady is what wins the race. When we started out, we did that. We went off and we bought a whole bunch of distressed properties, and we bought them all kind of back to back, and everything needed work. And it nearly bankrupted us, because when everything went bad at once. And now instead of having one giant fire to put out, we had 5. So had we just taken the time to stabilize one building, and then once that was up and running and we knew confidently there weren't going to be major surprises, moved on to the next, we probably would have been way further ahead than we were in that period of time. So slow and steady wins the race. There is no quick way to cash and riches. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah, that's true. Right?
That's the first kind of lesson. Lesson number 2 is always maintain your ethics and your integrity. So in business and in life, there are going to be opportunities where you have to decide whether your values, your ethics, your integrity top the ability to make money. Yeah. And sometimes it's very difficult to turn away what could be guaranteed income and good income for how long you don't know, to turn it down because of your principles. But the minute you let that go, I can't imagine that anything good will come of it, because it's, when you're not doing something that feels good inside, that's all going to come out in what it is that you do. And when you put that out, maybe lesson number 3 we can say is you get what you put out there, right? So if you don't feel good about yourself, if you feel like what you're putting out there is kind of icky and yucky, that's the vibe you're putting out into the world, and that's what you're going to attract to yourself. So now you're going to start attracting icky. You're going to start attracting less than, optimal anythings, right? So as a landlord, for me, that could be tenants who are also lacking the ethics and the integrity. They're looking to find ways to take advantage of me. As a business owner, I could be attracting clients and customers who are looking for my services and then are going to skip out on their bills. Versus because I know that I stay true to myself, I put that out there. And what you attract now are human beings who are good. They're willing to wait, and they're willing to help and put, giving first, knowing that they will receive after, and you create a world of abundance. So those would be my 3 things is slow and steady wins the race, maintain your ethics and your integrity, and you get what you put out there. So make sure what you're putting out there is good, so that the good is coming back.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can see how that can apply in any aspect of our lives, right? We have to spend time learning and go through the growth process so it doesn't collapse on it. We have to build good foundation. We have to make sure that we treat people well, right? So we get back what we put out, as you said, right? And I think just putting out, letting people know who you are and what you stand for, you'll definitely repel the ones that you shouldn't do business with. That's for sure.
100%.
Okay. Yeah. And over this time, 20 years plus that you've been doing entrepreneurship, investing, being a member of various boards and president of Korea, what kind of traits do you encourage us to build in ourselves or to cultivate to ensure that we succeed at what we're doing?
Absolutely. So first thing is confidence. You need to be confident in yourself. You need to trust yourself, because trust me, you're way, way smarter and way more able than you give yourself credit for. And that is anybody and everybody out there. That's something that I learned. I was very young and inexperienced when I started, and I had a very hard time trusting myself, trusting my instincts, and having that confidence to know that even though I didn't have the experience, I knew things. And the minute I embraced the fact that, you know what, I do know things, I have many things to learn, but I also know many things. And the confidence that I started to go out there with, it automatically turned the entire trajectory of our businesses and the way other people would communicate with me. So that would be number one, is confident. Be confident in yourself and your decisions and your instincts. The second thing I would say is tenacity. Entrepreneurship is not easy. And sometimes it's a very lonely game. Sometimes the people who love you most in the world are so afraid that you're going to get hurt that it sounds like they're being very negative. They're not being supportive. They're trying to convince you not to do things. And it's not that it's coming from a place of ill will. It's coming from a place of love. But when you're in a very difficult place in your business and the people that you love the most are telling you, oh, this is not the right thing to do, you should not be leaving your job and you should not be doing this, entrepreneurship doesn't work, it's very hard to get through that. But you need to know that if you're pushing through and you're making sound choices that are data driven, that's very important as well. The light at the end of the tunnel isn't a train, so just keep pushing.
Yeah. And the thing too, with the 2 points that you've mentioned, like trusting yourself, your intuition, right? Trusting your gut. Yeah. Sometimes when we go against that, that's when we make the biggest mistakes, right? And
always, for me, 100% of the time, I didn't trust my instinct.
Yeah.
And nothing good came of it.
Yeah, that's true. I had that experience as well. And as you said, people around you, they might not share the same vision, right? Yes, they're your family, they love you, you love them. But again, they might not understand the dream. So you have to be careful who you listen to.
And it comes from a place of love. The people who love you the most are trying to protect you in the only way that they know how, right? Because we only know as much as we know. And until we learn something new, we don't know that we didn't know it. So I think that would lead me to the third trait, which is, oh God, there's so many now that just came into my head, but to have the ability to adapt, right? So you need to be somebody who is able to adapt to the changes in your market, especially, I'm assuming that the goal is to be a long-term business owner, a long-term entrepreneur. So your business is going to shift and it's going to need to shift, and you need to be able to take your ego out of it and say, okay, today is the time that I need to let this aspect of my business go. And I need to go and bring this in, because what I was doing is no longer relevant, or it doesn't work, or the market's now oversaturated. So I need to create something new so that I can stay relevant. So that adaptability is also very, very important if you want to be successful long-term.
Yeah. And I like what you said, right? It's not emotional driven, it's not ego driven, because if you put those into your business, sometimes it acts as a blinder because it's our baby. We don't want to let it go, or we don't want to feel like this strategy that we came up with didn't work, right? So we need to let go of the ego, let go of the emotion, and look at the data, as you said, to make smart business decisions. And and to be vigilant, so we can see the signals, right? The triggers that would say, okay, you need to think about pivoting. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those. And challenges, because especially in today's environment, right? People might be scared of what's happening in the economy. People are worried about interest rates, right? Businesses are being challenged by higher costs, right? So
Absolutely.
share how you've faced some challenges in business and managed to overcome them.
Oh man. So there have been many challenges over the course of 20 years. I don't even know where to begin. I had this all thought out. Now my entire brain is scrambled. But okay, so one of the biggest challenges for me personally, I did start young. And I started in the world of real estate investing, and I invested in very small towns. So 20 years ago, those small towns were very like the boys club kind of cowboys and saloons, and little ladies go home and they bake bread. So it was very, very difficult for me to have confidence in myself and trust in my abilities, and trust in the decisions that I was making. So we had a hard time because there were certain things that, I was really like set on. I'm sure that this is the right way to do it, but because everybody around me was saying, oh, please, what do you know? You're, 21 years old. You don't have any life experience. You don't know anything. Like you barely finished university. You've never had to adult. It was really hard to kind of come and look at and say, okay, you know what, even though everybody else is saying one thing and the data is telling me that every time I listen to them, things don't go the way that they're supposed to go. It's time to start trusting in myself, and it's time to find people to surround myself with who get it, which is actually how Stilettos and Hammers was born. Is, I looked at it and I said, I can't possibly be the only one who faces this, right? I can't possibly be in this all by myself. I am not that special. There have to be other women out there who experience the same kind of thing. And I created this group because I wanted to find people who understood what I was saying and understood the challenges that I had and who could support me through it. And in turn, we created a network where we all supported one another. And, thank goodness, as, the years have gone by, we as a society have evolved, and people, it's different today than it was then. But really that confidence aspect was a very big challenge personally for me, getting out of that headspace that I'm not good enough. I'm not there. It was a very difficult thing to do and to shift. And I really needed to find my tribe of people to help me get there. I wasn't succeeding in that alone. And I'm glad that I did. The second challenge, I'm trying to do these in order, but they're probably not going to fall into order. But the second challenge for us as business owners was recognizing when it was time to pivot our businesses. So I spent my entire youth building our businesses, right? From 21 until now. Like I went from zero to entrepreneur, like workaholic kind of overnight. And when you pour all of that into something, it's really hard to accept that, what you're doing isn't working as well anymore. And we had to decide, is this something that we wanted to continue because we built it and we're really good at it and it's worked for so long, so it's going to work again. And the problem is, the economy, the problem is, millennials, and the problem is, Gen Z or whatever we want. Or can we take a look at it and say, no, I have control over these aspects and I can choose to say, this was great. Wonderful chapter. Thank you for the experience. Thank you for, everything. We're going to close that part of the book and we're going to open up this new one. And I am going to now create what this new market is looking for so that I can continue to grow with it versus start to shrink into oblivion. That was very hard, was kind of getting that emotional aspect of, oh man, because you think to yourself, you're like, oh, if I don't do this anymore, if I stop doing this, then does that mean that I'm a failure? People are going to judge me. Guess what? Nobody's judging you but you. Nobody's looking at you and going, oh, she just sold an apartment building. She must be losing her money. Nobody's thinking that but you. So that was a really difficult thing for me to deal with. And the third and probably biggest challenge for me personally that I have ever had to overcome was the loss of my dad. So I lost my dad in May of 2019. And the last kind of 3 months of his life were really bad. He was in long-term care, and then he was in intensive care. And I was faced with the challenge of, do I say screw it to my businesses and, focus on my father and my family, or do I say I'll do what I can here, but my businesses are my priority? And I guess that comes into that kind of work-life balance. And this was when I realized there's no such thing as a work-life balance the way people say, where 50% of your time is with your business, 50% of the time is with your family, and everything's going to be glorious. So I was faced with, especially that 6-week period where my dad was in the ICU, I really had to decide, what is it that I was going to do? Was I going to leave him there? And, people could look at it and be like, well, he's not really present. He's not really, all together there. He's not going to know the difference. And it came back to that, the ethics, the integrity. This is a man, my parents are like the greatest humans ever. So I'm just going to leave this man there at the time of his need, where he's sacrificed his entire life for me. And I'm just going to be like, well, sorry, Dad, I need to make a couple $100. So that's what I did, is I left it. And I spent morning till night until my brother was able to come and, switch shifts. I was with my dad. And that was all that I did. I'm fortunate enough to have had my mom and my in-laws who were able to help me with my daughter, so that my husband wasn't being taken away from the businesses that he was running. We were fortunate enough to be able to hire some help to deal with like the other household management or minor tasks, which meant that the very few hours that I did have where I had the capacity to do something, I was able to focus those few hours on the important parts of the business to ensure the business didn't die.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I think, the most difficult was, what do you do? And for me, it was just stick with what your heart says. And my heart told me that I needed to be with my dad, and the rest of it would figure itself out. And it did. And to ask for help, I had to ask for help.
Yeah, definitely. And that is like the most challenging thing that could probably happen in our lives, to lose a parent or a loved one, right? And again, it comes to the support system that you build around yourself and knowing when to ask for help, right? And
Absolutely.
that is critical in life and in business. And you mentioned your tribe, right? Creating a network of like-minded people who you can leverage when times get difficult. I remember, as women, we have that additional challenge, right? We were doing a renovation in the States, my sister and I. And of course, we have no construction experience, and these contractors, right? They would try to talk down to you because they realize that you don't know the job, right? But you have to make sure that you retain your voice in your business, right? And thank you so much for sharing of your journey, sharing of your things that happen in your life, both personally and in business. And if anybody wants to continue to follow Lena, you can go to her website, Letters and Hammers. She has tips posted that you can learn real estate if that's what you're interested in. She has various events coming up. So if you want to build your network as well, come out to one of her events. The next one is April 19th and at your space in Richmond Hill, right? So feel free to connect with Lena. She's on LinkedIn. Message her there. And of course, what Lena has shown us, right, is that success leaves clues, and it is possible for everyone, right? You just have to know that slow and steady wins the race. Stick with it. Be tenacious, right? Trust your gut. And stay true to yourself, right? In all that you do. And know that it's your voice that really matters most in defining how you run your business, what work-life balance is to you, and how you serve, right? So again, Lena, thank you so much. I do appreciate your time. And
thank you. Thank you for having me and letting me share.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world. All right, ladies, gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. You had great takeaways. Lena, thank you so much. We're going to end the live now.